We're the Young Indie Chroniclers podcast, and we're producing a new feature-length documentary, George Lucas, The Lost Golden Age.
George Lucas was going to do this Lawrence of Arabia scale epic on a 16-millimeter budget.
You got a chance to have the same adventure making the show as what Indy was doing.
His stuff is really quite political.
You didn't think I was going to run, did you?
I learned that when George says he wants to ultimately change or fix something, that he was going to do it.
We built a Kickstarter campaign to support the film. Late pledges are available now at Kickstarter.com.
Hello there. Welcome to Force Ghost Conversations. This podcast is your home for cozy deep dives into all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent properties. This is your host, Anthony King, and each week I will be joined by fans, creators, and believers in the principles from the galaxy far, far away to discuss the thematical elements from our favorite Lucasfilm properties. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations. I am so thrilled for you to be here on this exciting episode that we have for everybody, which is including a look at the upcoming documentary, The Shark That Roared, that is going to celebrate the legacy and fun and just awesomeness that I believe, and of course our guest believes as well, for Jaws: The Revenge. And it's I'm excited for this documentary. I'm excited for you to hear this conversation. We of course have director Mike Gencarelli on the podcast here to discuss all things about his memories with Jaws: The Revenge, as well as what you can expect in the upcoming documentary and some fun news drops, I guess, perhaps, if you want to look at it from a certain point of view, about what you can expect in the documentary, which is really exciting. And I'll leave that for the larger discussion here. And of course, included in the episode description here is the link that you can search or use, I guess, to find the documentary online, as well as to support their Kickstarter, which they have some limited availability of some cool items, such as like a Blu-ray of the upcoming documentary, VHS, hats, and many other things that you can do. That all the proceeds go directly in support of the documentary itself too. So you don't want to miss out on any of that. And I'm excited for y'all to listen to the conversation as well. So before we get into that, let's do some Cloud City gossip. And it's a little bit of a lighter news week this week, but May 4th is around the corner, and also so is Maul Shadow Lord. And one of the new characters, Jedi Padawan Devon Izara, is going to have their lightsaber featured at Galaxy's Edge. So if you live close to either Anaheim or Orlando, you might be able to get your hands on that. I'm not sure if it'll go on Shop Disney, but it looks like there's a limited number of 3,000 units that will be available globally. Yes, it doesn't look like it just looking at the press release now, yes, it will be available on the Disney store so as well. So if you want to get that, it looks like a pretty cool lightsaber, actually, with a great little box that has an image from the show itself, as well as some other details in there as well. Definitely worth checking out. I think this looks like a fun little lightsaber if you want to add that to your collection. And then additionally, on top of that, speaking of the whole Disney side of things, is that D23 is back, the Ultimate Fan Event, and it'll be this upcoming August. I will be there, and they just made an announcement that tickets will start going on sale starting on, I believe, March 31st for certain members of the D23 community, and then on April 2nd for just about everybody else in the D23 community. So if you want tickets, you got to be, first off, a member of D23 first. You just can't just... I don't think you can just be the free member. You have to actually be one of the paid ones. And then that gets you entry into potentially buying tickets for them. So it's a great convention. Don't miss out on it. I can attest from the last time I was there, I had a blast, got to see the volume, got to meet so many cool people over at Lucasfilm. So if you're in the Anaheim area or you're a D23 member and this is kind of your jam, then this is right up your alley. So make sure you go do that. And we'll look forward to seeing you there. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a meetup of some sort or something like that. I don't know. Always in motion the future is, and there's a lot of time between now and August. So we'll look forward to that when it comes around the corner. Some more details on that accordingly then. With all that news, folks, let's get into our main topic discussion about The Shark That Roared with Mike Gencarelli. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Forest Ghost Conversations, and I am so thrilled to have another amazing episode for you all here today. You may remember from this past summer, we celebrated 50 years of the film Jaws, that seminal blockbuster in all of our histories and memories, and most people generally tend to adore and love that film here. But you may remember when we did that season that we also talked about the Jaws sequels, which are not so beloved by everybody across time, and we're here to celebrate, actually, the fourth entry of the Jaws franchise, Jaws: The Revenge, which is actually getting a wonderful celebratory documentary coming out next year called The Shark That Roared. And we have the director of that documentary, Mike Gencarelli, with us here today. Mike, welcome to Forest Ghost Conversations, and how are you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. I'm doing well.
It's our pleasure to have you here, and I'm so thrilled to have you to just like celebrate this story, because there's not a lot of people that are willing to go out and about and be like, yeah, Jaws: The Revenge is awesome, let's talk about it, I'm here for it, kind of deal. But I want to, before we go into that topic here, I want to go back to the original Jaws. The film just celebrated its 50th anniversary, like I mentioned, this past summer, and I'm curious about what are your earliest memories and experiences with that movie.
Yeah, believe it or not, I actually saw the fourth one first.
Really?
So I saw the fourth one in like '88, I think,
Okay.
and then I saw the third one, and then I saw the first one.
Okay. I
So,
was like, you might as well
but
just went 4, 3, 2, 1 at that point.
right, I know, but what I did was that I actually saw the first one on a boat,
Wow.
which was pretty cool. My father at the time had like this like little like 16-foot boat, and we took it out on the water, and it had like a VHS player in it, and we popped in Jaws and watched it on the water.
That is amazing.
So that was my first experience with Jaws.
Wow. Like,
But
can it get any better than that? I don't think it
I
can.
know, right? It was scary though, to be honest, for me. When I was younger,
Yeah.
I was like, "Ooh,
Well, I mean, that's an amazing experience there, but I feel like we're jumping like the lead here of like you saw Jaws: The Revenge first.
yeah,
And like I'm curious, like, was that because obviously it was a topical film? If you saw it first, right? You must in '88. You said you saw it, so it was like top of mind. It had just come out recently.
right."
But was it because like it was in theaters and playing, or like was a friend like we got to watch this kind of deal? Like, why did that come up first rather than someone being like we got to watch the original instead of the fourth in this entry?
Yeah, I remember when it was out in theaters, and I wanted to see it, but my parents wouldn't let me go. So, I had what I did is that I ended up renting it at my local library, and it was the only one they had.
Hmm.
So I was like, "This is the only Jaws." I'm like, "This is Jaws right here." And so I really didn't even think about that there was another one out there,
Okay.
because my local library only had Jaws 4,
Wow.
and and either Jaws 1 was always out, or they just didn't have it.
Okay.
So I had Jaws 4, and I would rent it all the time. So that's how I kind of got into that. So
Wow. Wow. Okay. I don't want to jump into the Jaws: The Revenge stuff here too quickly here. So thank you for sharing your experiences and memories with that. Just for the first Jaws, like I know it's celebrated and lauded as being this like seminal moment in pop culture history. So when you eventually did see it, like did it live up to the expectations and hype that you think you had for it by that point?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, because I already have seen 4 and 3,
Hmm.
I I was all psyched for it. You know what I mean? And I definitely loved it. I and by that time I was like doing like more stuff on the water, so
Hmm.
I was appreciating that kind of aspect more as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I definitely enjoyed that.
of the big three, your Chief Brody, your Hoopers, your Quint, like who would you say is your favorite of that trinity?
I gotta go with Quint, man, because
He's
he's
a popular
just,
one, yeah.
yeah, he's just the best. He has all the great lines. You know, he's like careless, doesn't care about anything, and he's just like kind of badass. You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree. I mean, he doesn't hold back at all. He's going to tell you straight, like,
Yep.
and to his dying breath, he is true to himself, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's something we could admire about a character like that. That's clearly went through a lot of stuff in his life, right? With Indianapolis and just like
Oh yeah.
a very very tragic life for the rest of for everything that he went through for the last 30 plus years of that story there. But yeah, Quint
Absolutely.
is awesome. I think just about everybody that we've had on the show that's talked about Jaws to some degree has been like, yeah, it's Quint. Quint's our guy.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. Robert Shaw unfortunately passed away very shortly after that. So what could have been, right? If he had been alive, maybe we could have gotten more. Well, the character dies, but maybe like it could have been like a prequel or story or something like that. It would have been
Yeah,
really
I know it.
interesting.
They could have done something else. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, from Quint to Hoagie here, let's get into the Jaws the Revenge part here. So, you know, I it's interesting that you saw it first, right? And that's what I want to dive into here for a little bit is that you saw Jaws the Revenge first, and I feel like that's might have been the best way to see it. What because I think a lot of people have seen Jaws and then go through the sequels as like chronologically they would, and then they feel like maybe deflated and maybe sunk by the end of getting to Jaws the Revenge there. But if you saw it in the opposite direction, do you have like from the immediate start a more higher praise for that film than just about anybody?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. You know what I mean? It's definitely a favorite of mine. It always has been a favorite,
Hmm.
and like when I think of it, I just have like good memories.
Yeah.
Because I always remember taking out that VHS tape from my from my library. Like every week, I would take it out and I would watch this movie.
Wow. Every week, huh?
Yeah, no, like you know what I mean. Like it was every couple of weeks, but like
Sure.
I would rent it very often.
Yeah. I think
And yeah, me and my sister used to watch it together. So
That's this is amazing. I am just I love this story and this etymology of how you got into this thing, and clearly it's resonated over the last 40 years, so that we're at the time to celebrating its 40th anniversary here pretty soon, and the reasoning behind this documentary that we're here to talk about today. So, the upcoming documentary, folks, is The Shark That Roared, and it seeks to celebrate the legacy of Jaws the Revenge. And, I'm curious, Mike, why do you think the documentary was the best way to tell this story?
I mean, I'll be 100% honest with you. Jaws 1 gets a documentary every few years,
Yeah, it's true.
and don't get me wrong, they're good. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But it gets documentaries all the time. But I was thinking to myself one night, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, why isn't there no documentaries about Jaws 4?
Hmm.
I'm like, is it celebrating any like anniversary soon? And I looked it up and it was, this was in 2025. And I was like, 2 years from now? I'm like, I think I can make a movie in that time.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and I just kind of started with that, and I just decided that, that a documentary would be a good way to take it.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I'm all for that, and I think it's a film that deserves, like I was saying, like this look at it from a different lens, and with time and space comes that different appreciation and lens for it that I don't think people really have. And now, once the Jaws hits that 50, it's a big milestone, right? So now it's time to start celebrating the other ones that come along with it too, because they're just as important to the pop culture story as well, right? You
That's what
know,
I mean. Yeah.
Jaws 2, 78, right? It comes out in a time that Hollywood wasn't really doing sequels at this point. Now, I know the 80s are certainly known for being a muddleization of sequels, right? Sequelitis is everywhere. It's the franchise thing
Sure.
here. But really, Godfather Part 2 and then Jaws 2 were kind of that steamroller that got things rolling here. And basically, yeah, we're leading up to the point there where Jaws 4 is only, 15 away from Jaws 19. That is going to be prophetized in 2025 by Back to the Future Part 2. Um,
Yeah, of course. Max Spielberg directing.
that's right, exactly. And you know, I think it's just so interesting that you're like, hey, let's do this. This is deserves it. And I guess aside from the like the I guess you would say like the anniversary and the celebratory angle of this thing here, right? Being 40 years from its release, right? Is there any other reasons that you would say like why now is like the appropriate time to do something like this?
I just think that I've been noticing that a lot of people, are giving this movie some love.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, I know this movie is like considered like, like the worst movie of all time. And, it's on like the worst list for everyone. Yeah, some people consider it the worst Jaws. And I'm like, but then there's like a whole span of other people who actually like this movie.
Yes.
And I'm like, I think I need to bring something to them, as like a way to show that this film is in fact has this cult classic, following behind it.
Yes, agreed, agreed. And I think it's important to note, folks, that we're here in this documentary seeks to as well as to celebrate the voices that have like you championed this film over the years, because I think we hear all the time that there's like Michael Caine being like, yeah, I've never seen it, but it was great to fund the house that I built for my mom or something like that. And
Exactly.
those stories have promulgated over the years and have just taken over the zeitgeist, especially as social media has expounded and grown over the last couple of years, and it's just become memeified. Whereas I feel like if this had come out now, it would be celebrated in the way like a Sharknado kind of was in the last 10 years or so, but like in a different way. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it would be celebrated for its quirkiness and for its I would say coziness. There's a coziness to this movie that I really appreciate.
There certainly is.
Between the Amity settings that we revisit again, and also going to the Bahamas too. Like, take us
Yeah.
to a whole new setting in Jaws that's not just SeaWorld.
Yeah, no, it's true. I agree, man, 100%. So
Yeah, so I've seen the trailers for The Shark That Roared, and it looks like you've accumulated some incredible talent for interviews, including actors from the production as well as celebrities like James Murray and Kevin Smith. Why do you think that people are so ready and both willing to talk about this cult classic right now?
I think what it is that I think I've kind of taken people by shock.
Yeah.
And people like, wait, Jaws, yeah, Jaws, wait, Jaws 4? You know? and and people like, some of the people I've interviewed, they're like, this is crazy, like I never thought I'd be talking about Jaws 4.
Hmm.
And but they enjoyed it, you know what I mean? Like, Kevin Smith is a big shark fan.
Yeah.
And when I told him I was doing Jaws 4, he's like, I have to be involved. Like he asked me to be involved. Like it was super cool.
That's the
But
best answer you can get from that one.
oh
Like,
my gosh, yeah, absolutely.
you don't
It
even
was
have to harass him or ring him into doing something like this.
no, he was super cool, and he's like, I want to help out. I want to executive produce. Like he came up with all these ideas, and it was just like a good time to start it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things that's like it's a intellectual curiosity and a entertainment curiosity, right? In both of like from people that are fans of this, like a Kevin Smith, right? Where it's like a how did this production get made kind of curiosity, right? Like what were the choices behind the scenes to like say like, yeah, let's have a shark roar. Let's include that, right? And then you also have like some of the cast too. So like I've noticed Lance Guest is a part of this production, as well as
Yeah.
Mario Van Peebles. And I bet you they're like, I mean, I don't want to assume, but you can probably confirm with me here or not. But like they're probably like, what? You want to talk about that? Yeah, let's do it. And like that's an interesting way to get people sitting down for this type of thing when like usually they're like trying not to talk about it for most of their career, but enough time has passed. They're like, yeah, let's open the flood banks up and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I reached out to Lance, he's like, if you want to talk about this movie, he goes, I'm down. But just know that it's not my favorite movie that I've done, and I'm like, all right.
That's
I'm like,
fine.
that's fine. I'm like, it's you don't have to love it. I said, but other people do, so I want to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, and maybe he can shed some light onto why there's, the multiple lives and deaths of Jake in this movie.
Oh, we have so much good content to come to. I swear to God,
That's
so
one of
much good
the
content.
funniest parts of this movie, right? Is learning some of the behind the scenes details, and you're like, oh, he kind of dies in this one scene, and then there he is back again. Um, which again just shows, like, I think once time has passed, right, and we're able to look with a different set of lens upon these types of productions, right, we're able to enjoy it for what it is, right? Like, it doesn't have to be Jaws. And by this point, I would say you're the fourth installment, you're beyond a 3D production of Jaws too, which,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would say,
exactly.
like, arguably that's objectively a worse film than this one. That's just my opinion on that one.
Yeah, I
um,
agree.
but this one tries to, like, center itself again, but still has those interesting quirks again with it, and it's at the forefront. So I'm glad that you were able to, like, get these folks on board for this thing. And we've had conversations on this podcast about things like the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, for example, from the 90s. And
Sure.
we had another ironically, another group of people are doing a documentary about that kind of era at Lucasfilm. And there are people that work on, like, Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and they're like, I'm done talking about that kind of production, and like, I've said everything I need to say about those things, right? But then they're like,
Sure.
hey, we actually want to hear you, like, your experiences and your stories about working on Young Indy. And then they're like, well, I'll sit down for that interview. Absolutely. So it sounds like that's kind of been a similar process for this one as well. Is that right?
You're 100% right. That's exactly right. I've been asking these people for interviews, and like I said, I've shocked them, and they're like, I haven't spoken about that like ever.
Hmm.
So I would love to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why.
Agreed. So I know the documentary is slated for 2027 release.
Yeah, summer.
So what can you tease about the documentary at this time for the listeners? Like, what can they expect from this type of documentary? What are the types of stories that should be expecting to hear? All that kind of stuff.
Well, I'll give you one little hint. Well, two hints. Um, when we interviewed Lorraine Gary, which was a huge score for us.
Whoa, that's a big drop.
Yeah, we interviewed Lorraine Gary. That was huge. And she gave these stories. We spoke to her for like an hour and a half,
Hmm.
and she was just giving story after story, right?
Yeah.
And then she finished with her interview, and her son that was there goes, I didn't even know half those things.
Wow.
So I'm like, this is gold, man. This is 100% pure gold.
Well,
So yeah, we definitely have that coming. That's going to be a big one.
hmm, that's an
And
amazing
then,
pull. Yeah.
oh my God, yeah, absolutely. No question about it. And then, the film takes place in the Bahamas, right?
Hmm. Yep.
So we actually went to the Bahamas for the filming of this movie.
As you should.
Yeah. And let's just say we came back with so much stuff that I can't even tell you one thing. I have to
Really.
tell you like all of it in one shot. So I can't even reveal one thing. But let's just say that it was like worth its money and then some.
That sounds like it's worth the price of admission right there. Is to
Holy cow, you have
just
no idea what we got.
just to hear about the whole Bahamas production side of things here. Like,
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was so cool. The Bahamas was awesome, and we just really had a good time. And we got so much good content just from the Bahamas.
so it's amazing that you're able to get Lorraine for this production, because, like, that was going to be the one of the things that I was going to ask, because I feel like that's the one that she's kind of like, she's the biggest connection to the original Jaws that's in this movie.
Right.
But I feel like she's the one that's like, I am not talking about that movie. So, like, this is one
Well,
where
that
I think time has passed so much that we're like, let's talk about it.
it's funny. The first time I did speak with Lorraine, I got her phone number from her son,
Hmm.
and I called her, and I was like, hey, this is like a cold call. So I was like, hey,
Wow.
I'm doing this movie, and I want to talk about Jaws 4. And she goes, oh no. She goes, thank you so much anyway. And she hangs up the phone.
What?
So I was like, I literally sat on the phone just staring, going, what do I do now?
Hmm. Hmm.
So then, so some time went by, like a couple months flew by, and then I reached out to her son again, And I said, well, let's interview you as well,
Yeah.
And he thought that was a good idea, because his father was Sid Seinberg, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, he takes a very important role in Universal and with, all these movies.
He's the reason this
So
happens.
that's what I mean. So he had a ton of stories too about his father and everything like that. So then we got him on board, and he goes, you know what? He goes, if you want, he goes, I could bring mom with me, and I was like, yes. I was like, that sounds wonderful.
Please bring her.
And that was it. Like we just kind of pitched him on the story, and like explained it all to him, like like how we're doing this out of love, and this is all a positive experience. Like we're not making fun of the movie. Like I'm sure there's jokes. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Some of the guys joked. Kevin Smith joked. But like it's not poking.
It's
not,
all in
it's
good
not,
jest, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No one's sitting there making fun of this movie.
There's literally a
calling it
shark that roars in
stupid.
this movie. We can't make fun of it more than it already makes fun of itself.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it makes fun of itself. So we're just kind of pointing out the fun moments in the film,
Exactly.
and so that's it, man. It just worked out great. We got real lucky.
I would say absolutely, because that's such a great pull. I mean, to getting like Lance Guest on the thing is one thing, but like Lorraine Gary takes this thing to another level in terms of like the value of storytelling and whatnot. Because like, yeah, she was on the original Jaws production, and has that Sid Sheinberg connection as well. So like, she's seen the whole journey from start to finish
Yeah,
in many
exactly.
ways. So she's able to compare it to, well, this is what Steven did on the first one, and now we're doing this on this version here too, which I think is incredible. And I was going to bring me to my next point here, which is I think is the brilliance of a documentary like this, and like especially as time goes on, right, is we're starting to lose some of these voices in the space,
Sure.
unfortunately. And it's important to catalog these stories and record it for historical posterity,
Of course.
which is exactly what this documentary is doing, which I thank you for that as a fan of this work. But like you said, there's so many Jaws documentaries on for about the original film, right? I feel like I know that production too well in some degree,
Right.
right?
That's what I
Because
mean. Like everyone knows, all the secrets.
absolutely, yeah, 100% right. I mean, like there was that one that came out this past year, the at Jaws at 50 that just came out.
Yep.
The whole exhibit down at the Academy Museum that's going on right now through at least through the rest of the summer,
Which is amazing. It's worth the trip just to go to California,
I know,
just to go to that. So
It bothers me that I think it ends in like July or something like that this year,
yes,
and
yeah, I think it's
I'll actually
July.
be in California in early August, and I just missed it. I'm
Oh,
like,
you
please
gotta be
extend
kidding
it,
me.
please extend it. And then of course they announced at the Academy Awards this past year, this past couple of weeks here, that they are doing like a Marilyn Monroe exhibit that's taking over. I'm like, of course.
That
Couldn't
hurts.
it just keep the Jaws just make it a permanent exhibit? Who needs even a special
Honestly,
exhibit?
I'm not gonna lie. That place isn't really that great. It needs a lot of new stuff,
Got it. Yeah.
and the Jaws thing was really the major highlight. It was like like Jaws was on the fourth or fifth floor, right?
hmm
So as we made our way up to the fourth or fifth floor, we started going into all the other exhibits, and I was like, oh geez, I'm like, if this is the way it's gonna go, I don't know if this Jaws one's gonna be any good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then we got up there and it just blew us away. So
You're like from seeing like the I think they have like a shark animatronic up there too that
yeah,
they used
yeah, they
on
got a
it.
shark animatronic.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh! Like everything is so well done and put together up there. I've from the pictures I've seen alone, it's worth it. Again, folks, if you get the chance, please go out and see it there. So, it's a time that this, like I was saying, the time that this documentary and this movie gets its day in the sun, to chat about that. And speaking of Day of the Sun, there's I believe Carl Gottlieb's book, the Jaws log,
hmm
chronicles so much of the Jaws production as well. And there's so many stories about like the Martha's Vineyard side of things, and all the people and extras that were on that original production, right? But I feel like with the Bahamas side of things, that's never been talked about. So like,
yeah,
I assume, probably you can confirm for me again, that like I'm sure you talked to people that like were actually there, and like we were just like locals and natives that just kind of like went along with it and like, hey, I'm an extra in this thing. Cool.
Yeah, no, we spoke to some people from the Bahamas. Absolutely, no question about it.
So you were saying 2027. Do you have a rough estimate for when people can get their eyes on this property?
Well, here's the thing: the original movie came out July 17th, 1987. So
Mhm.
40 years is July 17th, 2026, 2020,
Yeah.
2027. So I was thinking around July, like summertime, and we'll bring it out exactly when, the original came out.
Hmm.
So that's what we were thinking. I mean, we're editing from June on because we wrap in June, and then we're going to be editing, for the rest of the year, and
Right.
then pretty much we'll be ready to go. So it's just going to be, getting it ready and finishing it up, like any less little touches, but basically we're doing a lot of the stuff that we need to do this year.
Amazing.
So we're
Amazing.
we're on like a great timeline, like I always like to be ahead of myself. So I'm like ahead of myself finishing it, so it's like it's working out really well.
Yeah, agreed. And it sounds like you guys, yeah, from at least from my angle here, it sounds like you guys are pretty steaming full head along towards that summer 27 release date. And I'm curious, and there's a lot of work to be done in between here beforehand. But you have an eye towards that premiere potentially? You thinking SeaWorld, Bahamas, Amity? Where are you thinking for
Well,
potentially launching this thing into the public sphere?
I'll be honest with you. Kevin Smith owns a movie theater
That's
in
right, up
in,
in
in New Jersey.
yeah, the Smod Castle Theater, right?
So he decided that we could do it there.
Amazing.
Now obviously that sounds fine to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, we'll see how it plays out. But I think that'll probably be our first, like public screening, as far as I know.
Yeah, yeah,
And now
absolutely.
and that'll probably be before like July. You know what I mean? Like it'll probably be like earlier.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
naturally.
it'll come out, like more wide in July, I'm thinking,
Mhm.
is what I'm thinking. So
Yeah, all the digital and physical releases that'll
exactly.
accompany
Yep.
this.
Yep.
Um, Now I'm curious. You guys had a very successful Kickstarter,
Yes.
and various forms of crowdfunding support for this documentary, which I think is awesome and fantastic. And it shows that, like we were saying, that there is a group of people interested in this work, and really want to see it come to life. But I believe that technically the Kickstarter is closed, the campaign is closed, quote unquote. But are there still ways that people can lend their support if they're interested and they're listening to this and they're like, I got to get involved with this somehow?
What's good is that the Kickstarter did close, but it's in what's called in demand right now.
I love it.
So that means you could still go on the Kickstarter page and you could still, buy the hat, buy the shirt, buy the Blu-ray, get a signed poster. All these things are still available through Kickstarter.
Hmm.
So, the website is super easy. It's thesharkthatroared.com.
Awesome.
Theshark.roar.com, and that'll take you right to the Kickstarter page.
Amazing. And folks, we'll include
So
a link in the episode description too for you. So you
perfect.
can just click on that directly to go support this documentary in whatever way that you deem fit, because there are a lot of cool things that you guys still have available. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an audio podcast, so listeners, I can tell you, I am wearing a Shark the Roared hat right now,
Me
which
too.
is a fantastic hat. It fits really well. You guys did a fantastic job putting this thing together here.
Thanks,
But
man.
correct me if I'm wrong here, because I don't want to be misspeak here. Is there a VHS option of this documentary too that you can
A-
buy?
Absolutely. Of course there is.
Tell me more about how that came about.
Well, it's with my partners. The company is called Brainbuster Video,
Hmm.
and they do a lot of video production still.
Nice.
And and I reached out to them and I was like, "You guys do some great products. I would love to actually do an official Shark That Roared VHS," and they were totally on board with it. So, and in fact, the the guy who runs the company ended up being an associate producer too
Ah,
on the film.
it works out.
So yeah, so that was pretty cool, you know. And but yeah, no, it's I mean it's a must, man. You know, I love physical media, so
Absolutely.
I love and I love the fact that people actually wanted a VHS tape. You know,
Hmm.
like I mean, we didn't sell thousands, you know, but we did sell a decent amount. Like, and I was like, oh wow, okay, that's pretty cool. You know, like enough people wanted it. You know, so I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, you know, it was definitely exciting.
100%. And there's a part of me that's like, is that the best way to watch this documentary? Is on VHS, right? Because so many people, yourself included, watched the original Jaws: The Revenge on a VHS tape.
Sure.
So it's like it's a full circle moment to have
We
that option available for people again, instead of our modern tendencies to just go through a streaming platform or a digital release of some sort.
we did film in 4K, so we do have some really epic shots, you know. So
Sure. What you're saying is get both the Blu-ray and the VHS, and
honestly, it's good to have two different options, you know.
you can never be too sure, just in case, right? This day and age where things are taken off streaming platforms, the only way you can
Yeah,
physically have it yourself at any time and place is to actually own a physical copy in your hand.
you know it. That's the way to do it.
Well, Mike, this has been a fantastic look at the shark that roared, and I can speak for myself and probably many of the listeners here too, in the fact that we are very much excited and looking forward to this documentary when it comes out in 2027. So, thank you very much for your time here. But I do have one last question for you, and arguably this
Of
is
course,
my most important question of our conversation here today. And I've been having this debate with people for years, and our Jaws: The Revenge episode that we did this past summer was a key talking point of that episode.
okay.
And as like, you arguably might be the biggest fan of this movie that I know. So from your perspective, do you think that Jaws: The Revenge qualifies as a Christmas movie?
You know what's funny? I believe I do. You know,
Oh, I'm with
because
you. Yeah.
and I'm not the only one. Like I have people reaching out to me. Hey, I watch this movie every Christmas. Hey, this is my favorite Christmas movie. Hey, like I've been watching this with my kids. You know, growing up every year on Christmas. So I know that we're not the only ones that think that. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and and it does start off in Christmas, and and so like I consider it, definitely a Christmas flick, just like Die Hard.
That's right.
They're not singing carols the entire movie, but I still consider Die Hard a Christmas movie. You know what I mean?
Hey, if it feels warm and cozy, which this film does, that's all that
Yeah,
matters. And it takes place in December, and those Amity shots at the beginning of this movie.
gorgeous.
We often only know it for the summer season, right? The beaches will be open come hell or high water.
Right.
But seeing it with like those warm Christmas lights up, and just like that whole early part of the movie sequence, just chef's kiss is some of the best. And then also too, like you get the tropical Christmas aspect of it too, down in the Bahamas, which I think is an
Exactly.
understated part of this movie too.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So yes. So my answer is yes. So
For the record, folks, this is the definitive answer here. The answer is yes. So if you want to make Jaws: The Revenge a part of your regular holiday traditions, please do. And also, maybe the Shark That Roared can also be an accompaniment to that. After you watch Jaws: The Revenge, and then watch the documentary sequel of sorts, that can tell you everything about the production of the film and the wacky stories that took place in order to get it to come out. Well, Mike, this has been a fantastic look at this documentary. Where can the folks find you online? Again, if you want to plug the link for the Kickstarter again, please do so.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm on Instagram, and the page for that is just at the Shark That Roared. So feel free to follow us. I try to post, like all the good news that we get, like right away, so everyone can enjoy it with me. And then if you're looking to back the project, you could do it at thesharkthatroared.com, and then that takes you right to the Kickstarter page. And don't get turned off if you see that it says that it's ended, because if you still go into the rewards,
Mhm.
you can still pick whichever one you want, as long as it's not sold out, and then you could still buy it. So it's totally still possible.
Totally possible is
So
what we love to hear. And folks, he mentioned that is it until it's sold out, right? So there's a
There's a couple
time
things that are
element here to
sold
this.
out. Yeah, a couple things are sold out.
So make sure you get it before it sells out. So if you want that VHS, you want that hat, you want that Blu-ray, get it now before it's too late. You've been forewarned.
I know, right?
So, folks, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Again, the links are in the episode description if you want to check out the Kickstarter. So please do that. And we are very much looking forward to The Shark That Roared coming out in 2027. So, Mike, thank you very much for coming on the show. And for folks listening, thank you for being a part of the Force Goes Conversations family. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. And until then, may the Force be with you. Take care.